Hello, I am David Bulow, Director of Educational Programs at Proformative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Best Practices to Enhance Your Management Reporting Capabilities. During this webinar, learn practices from peers on how to elevate your company's financial reporting capabilities. Gain ideas and perspectives on how to improve your board book and management package. Learn best practices around process, software, and the content that needs to be included. Discover insights on how the cloud could be used to make your major improvements in changing this critical process. Hear from seasoned practitioners on why they chose the cloud, their experience, and how it enhanced their management reporting process. I would like to thank Host Analytics for helping us make this event possible and for their generous support, which helps us deliver this webinar at no cost. Just a few items before we get started. For those who are returning, thank you. And for those who are new, welcome. Proformative is the fastest growing online resource for senior level corporate finance, treasury, and accounting professionals. We provide a uniquely valuable online peer network which provides direct subject matter expert advice. We also recently launched Proformative Exchange, which is a collaboratory platform for researching products and services. All of this is completely noise-free and without advertisements. Check it out at proformative.com. The link to this presentation and the recording of this event will be sent out to all attendees within 24 hours. If you would like the current presentation to follow along, it is already posted on proformative.com/resources for you to download. In order to qualify for CPE, you must answer all 3 polling questions, and you need to have pre-registered for CPE. If you have any questions around CPE, please email them to cpe@proformative.com. We encourage you to ask questions by using the question box in the GoToWebinar panel. We will do our best to have them answered. If we do not get to your questions, we will forward them to today's speakers so they can follow up with you directly. You'll be asked to take a short, less than 1-minute survey at the end of the presentation. Please give us your feedback so we can bring you the best content possible and continue to improve. Today's learning objectives are discover ideas on how to improve your management package, become aware of tools available, workflows, and content that can improve your overall process. Learn about capabilities the cloud is bringing to this area. And now, it is a great pleasure. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Rick McClemens. Rick is Regional Sales Manager for the western half of the U.S. Rick has led many successful Host Analytic customer implementation, and he now manages the Western Region implementation team. Prior to joining Host Analytics, Rick had 19 years of corporate finance experience in a number of roles that included business analyst, FP&A, mergers and acquisitions, and controller. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rick.
Thank you, David, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and I'd also like to thank Proformative for holding this event. I'm going to begin today by talking about some trends we're seeing throughout organizations in how information is reported in order to drive maximum value. And then I'm going to discuss how the cloud is a fundamental aspect of enabling these changes. And then next you're going to hear from Michelle to learn from someone who has actually embraced the cloud technology in order to drive value within her organization. So let's talk about the role of accounting and finance and how it has evolved or is currently evolving in relation to the rest of the organization. Traditionally, finance has been the reporter of information. That role is changing, and the role of finance is evolving to be a true business partner to the rest of the organization. It's changing from the traditional data collection, auditing, and reporting functions that tend to be reactive with little time for forward-thinking analysis. And notice I said forward-thinking analysis, because there's always been analysis conducted by financial teams, But a lot of the traditional analysis was to understand what had happened and not what's the best course of action for the organization moving forward. That is how it's evolving, to actually looking forward and to help drive decision-making that's going to add value to your organizations. The tools that are available today can take away the burden of data collection and developing reporting packages to free up a significant amount of time that can be utilized by finance teams to become much more strategic and become that valued business partner. Finance teams today need to be thinking strategically. They need to be forward-looking, conducting what-if analyses, modeling business practices to help drive profitability and business results. It's no longer about providing a summary of results from last month. It's about how we drive the business forward and helping set strategic direction. As I look at this slide, I'm reminded of a favorite quote of mine. It was from Jim Barksdale, who was the former CEO of Netscape. So I don't know how many of you remember Netscape, but it was a hot internet browser company in the early 1990s. And at the time, he so eloquently quipped, if we have data, let's look at data. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. Now, we all know that we don't want to be in the business of espousing opinions that don't have a basis. Therefore, we have to rely on the data, and reporting is our key to do that. As we were just talking about how finance is being asked to answer questions to help drive the company forward, what is the mechanism that enables us to answer all the questions that are going to be posed to us as we provide the strategic direction to the organization? How do we demonstrate our understanding of the data? Well, financial reporting and analysis is that tool. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how efficient you are at collecting and aggregating the data. If you can't combine this information with meaningful analysis and reporting that is consistent, relevant, and accessible to the organization, then there will be a lot of people knocking on your door, calling you, or filling your inbox with a number of questions. The reporting of financial and operational data is the time for the finance team to shine. Finance should be the facilitator of timely, accurate, and most importantly, insightful information across the organization. This may be manifested in several forms. Finance developing and distributing financial and operational reporting packages to key stakeholders on a timely basis, or finance being an evangelist across the organization by helping subject matter experts adapt best practices in financial reporting for their departments or lines of business. This will encourage more consistent review and decision-making processes, and lastly, finance enabling technology to do all of the above across your organizations. So what does better reporting look like? It focuses short, medium, and long term. It includes financial and non-financial data in a way that highlights the interdependencies. It includes relevant information about the strategy. Shows the business model and how you create value. Includes past performance, but more holistically and with context. And then highlights the pressures in achieving performance measures. So what I alluded to earlier, reporting today is not your father's Oldsmobile, as the commercial says. Times have changed. Regulations have been adopted around financial reporting like Sarbanes-Oxley, XBRL, XFRS, just to name a few. And the pace of global business has forced organizations to adapt or face severe consequences. To assist in this effort, companies have become much more transparent in their reporting practices. While the items listed on this slide may seem obvious, it's a combination of all of these into a single process that makes this a significant change. So let's look at these. Reporting needs to focus on different time horizons depending on the audience. So for example, if you're trying to make capital lease decisions which will have an impact maybe 1, 3, or 5 years down the line, or are you making tactical short-term decisions to drive next quarter's results? The time horizon should be a non-issue in communicating the data, meaning you shouldn't worry about what the time horizon is for the scenario at hand. You should not be held hostage by the time horizon in terms of communicating the information. The ability to combine and understand the interrelationships between financial data, which we're all familiar with, operational data, some examples are such as headcount, sales volume, production volume, or something like sales bookings, and external data such as micro and macroeconomic indicators like exchange rates, cost of living increases, housing starts, commodity prices, political unrest, consumer confidence. All of these are imperative in this day and age. You have to have visibility into all of the internal and external data you have at your fingertips. The 2008 global financial crisis taught us a very hard lesson in this arena. Here's a great example of what can be accomplished. One of our customers using our application is able to pull in external data through Edgar Online, which, as you know, is a tool to consolidate your FCC reporting. They look at their 4 biggest competitors, and not only do they benchmark against their competition, but they get pieces of data from their competitors, like their margins, and then they'll take their margins and run them through their plan so they can answer, what if we had their margins, what would our bottom look like? That provides them with context into their own plan. Similarly, remember that finance is transitioning from a tactical data aggregator to a strategic partner. In so doing, they are providing data that is linked to strategic plans to align short-term decision-making with the overall strategic direction of the organization. Access to and ability to combine the data in a meaningful fashion is what makes this new reporting successful. And lastly, performance against delivering value to the organization and the challenges to the delivery of this value cannot be hidden anymore. This information is exposed front and center for all to see. This leads to deeper understanding of the business itself and the interdependencies between decision-making at different levels of the organization. Okay, as we have just seen, the concept of better reporting has many facets. And I'm sure you're wondering how this information is structured to support these principles, which will deliver an end-user needs as well as delivering the value proposition. This slide displays the key aspects of the types of reporting which collectively leads to value. Moving from right to left, we can see that there's a mixture of organizational data, performance metrics, and future outlooks, which are combined to provide the impact that stakeholders require. For example, a clear understanding of not only the organizational hierarchy, such as departments rolling into divisions, which roll into business units, but also the models which support this hierarchy, what products or services are being delivered by these units that lead to an optimal performance mix. Combining these together is what is essential from a reporting perspective. Similarly, having the relative strategic direction overlaid on top of the more tactical performance, meaning the shorter term or duration, well, these tactical performance metrics then provide that additional level of perspective and context to ensure more effective decision making. And lastly, the combination of future outlook and risk mitigation strategies provides the final pieces of the puzzle, which then enable any user to attain value from the reports. As we continue across the spectrum from left to right, we see that the ultimate goal of this new reporting philosophy is to present the business value. Companies have identified different time horizons for purposes of communicating this business value to make it actionable. Just as we talked about earlier, how different time horizons should not impact how a report is generated, similarly, we need to understand what kind of information is communicated within these different time horizons. For example, to present a more tactical decision-making value, it is best achieved with a short time horizon. What's my marketing spend in the next 6 months to provide the best return on investment for leveraging social media tools? In extending the time horizon, companies are able to understand how strategic initiatives which were defined to move the business forward have performed. For example, will launching a new product in the South American market help deliver better margins more than expanding in the already existing North American market? What are those projects which companies look to undertake that are going to take them to the next level? Typically, these are not right around the corner, but instead they're evolutionary, a longer-term process, and an appropriate time horizon to facilitate this reporting is essential so stakeholders have appropriate expectation about when that value is going to be delivered. So how does this really differ from the current state? Let's look at the differentiators between traditional reporting and that which will take us to the value proposition on the next level. This slide's a little busy, so let me explain what you're looking at. The first column lists the key reporting features. The middle column focuses on traditional reporting against the features. And the right-hand column does this for the same thing for best practices. I'm going to focus on some of the key areas like trust, stewardship, thinking, presentation, and technology. As I mentioned previously, the regulatory environment has forced companies to be more transparent. And having access to this data in real time with proper controls deployed to protect privacy is not only keeping the company secure, but agile in terms of reacting to market demands. Similarly, the ability to expose any types of data in context is essential to ensure that reporting is complete and addresses all users across the organization, whether they be line-level managers, general managers, vice presidents, or all the way up to the CEO, CFO level. Incorporating different types of data, financial, operational, and external, leads to a more holistic thought process and better decision making. For example, a department manager that doesn't do a good job controlling travel expenses that are in accordance with your corporate policy should understand that their decisions can impact not only their department's ability to share in the organization's bonus pool, but will also impact other departments' potential bonuses payout. This type of thinking can significantly impact corporate performance. Now, the last two key points I'd like to touch on are the presentation of this information and the technology used to present the data. In this new world, the presentation of the enormous 3.5-inch binder with all of the reports printed off for distribution to stakeholders has gone away. But rather, the presentation is much more concise, with the ability to drill into relevant areas which require investigation. So it's almost exception-based reporting versus having the entire breadth of reporting made available and having users wade through the reports to find the information that's relevant to them. This allows data preparers to provide context around the reports, such as the key metrics to review in accordance with corporate standards, or these are the exceptions that we need to take action on, or these are the various explanations that describe why we are in the position that we currently are in. Because the data today resides in systems that are accessed by all users, the information is reliable, relevant, and readily accessible by stakeholders. technology is changing and information is being provided in real time. Things on laptops, iPads, and other tablets, and even mobile phones, which leads to not only faster but more efficient decision making. Okay. So we can't achieve this type of reporting that we're talking about easily without the right technology. A growing trend in finance is the use of enterprise performance management, also called EPM. EPM is a suite of financial applications for planning, budgeting, and forecasting, which are typical FP&A functions, but they also incorporate close management, financial consolidations, and disclosing results to external stakeholders. These are typically accounting and finance reporting functions. We also enable reporting to executives, managers, the board, and which is internal reporting. And then the analytics, EPM tools provide the analytics, strategy setting, alignment, and measurement that helps keep this process moving and driving the organization forward. When you bring all of these areas into one system, you improve the type of reporting we have been discussing. EPM enables this type of reporting. Organizations are moving to EPM solutions to deliver actionable insights, drive accountability across the organization, and introduce speed and agility to their strategic financial processes. So in metrics-driven EPM, for getting started, we really need to take a look at what are the key drivers for your business and what do your stakeholders really care about. So we could have corporate metrics, functional metrics, and we could even have some external metrics if they're particular drivers for your business. And then we need to look at how frequently are we delivering this information. It could be daily, weekly, monthly, annual information, whatever the time frame is. And then what is the context of this information and reporting? Are we looking at our actual data against a budget or a forecast? Are we looking at our actual data versus a benchmark or another time period? Or are we looking at our data with trends over time? So you can see as the context grows, we get more and more scenarios that we're doing the same type of reporting for. We've just got different comparison purposes. And that's the power of an EPM tool in that it takes the Excel management of your reporting out of the hands of an Excel tool, and it all produces it consistently in the EPM solution. So as we've mentioned, technology has changed. Many of you are likely thinking that would be great, but the functionality doesn't exist, or if it did, it's going to cost a lot to be able to report that way. The first EPM solutions came out not much later than this picture from the movie Wall Street, which was in the mid-'80s. And you can see the cell phone there, which doesn't quite look like the phones that we have today. But the technology has changed since then, and both the functionality and the cost are within reach for a range of companies via the cloud-based technology. In the previous comparison of old versus new, we saw that there's a significant change in how information is reported these days, and technology is leading the way in enhancing processes around us. Specifically, cloud vendors are providing solutions that not only enable customers to aggregate their data into a common platform, but also provide cutting-edge tools to analyze and report on the data. This is how in the past with Excel, you would have to aggregate multiple workbooks or sheets of data into a common workbook off of which you would start to prepare your analysis. Then you would work for hours and hours or possibly days and days to perform this work, only to find out at the end that there was an error in a formula or someone overwrote a formula which was included for consistency purposes. And how many more days would be required to remedy the issue, and would there be more like it to come? That was never known, and a leap of faith had to be made. Cloud computing has leveled the playing field by taking the ownership of the data out of the hands of those who are better equipped to analyze it rather than gather the data. And that's you. Your core competencies to analyze and report the data for the purposes of making critical decisions to help move your organizations forward. You should focus on those efforts rather than trying to understand if the European entity's data is version 3 or version 4 of your current plan. Cloud computing is transforming the enterprise. So what is cloud computing? It's really just a modern way to deliver software, and it's transforming how enterprises of all shapes and sizes are conducting business. It was pioneered in 1990 by Salesforce.com, which transformed the CRM category, and they now have over 100,000 customers. Workday did something in the HCM category after it was founded in 2006. NetSuite showed that CFOs at mid-market companies trust the cloud for ERP applications. And now we're seeing a similar shift in the EPM category. Companies are replacing outdated technology or moving off of Excel to better, more cost-effective ways of doing business. So what are the benefits of cloud computing? Well, we see 3 major benefits of cloud computing, and they are agility and speed, security, and overall lower cost. With agility, we define agility as can finance own and manage the application without being dependent on others like specialized consultants or IT resources. Implementing the solution fast. And it also means having a platform that's flexible enough to handle the changing needs of the business. And free from the upgrade burden. There's no upgrades necessary with the cloud, in the cloud, because the upgrades get pushed automatically to your solutions on a regular schedule. Jazz Pharmaceuticals is a customer of ours that is a great example. Jazz first bought our planning cloud in early 2011. Later that year, they decided to pursue a growth strategy and acquired a European company. Luckily, they chose a vendor to support their new strategy, and they rolled out our closed management cloud to be able to consolidate not only their existing U.S. operations, but their acquired European operations, and they have since undertaken another acquisition, and they were easily able to incorporate these new companies that they bought into their Host Analytics EPM suite. And then when they wanted to improve their revenue planning processes, they simply switched on our advanced revenue planning application. So security, it's secure and available. State-of-the-art security keeps data safe. Most people realize that emailing spreadsheets with sensitive financial information is risky. Other people realize that their legacy software wasn't designed with the latest security technology and practices in mind. For some companies, they might not have the IT staff and resources to keep up with the latest in security measures. Security is the lifeblood of a cloud vendor's business. It is what we do. We have to invest considerable resources to maintain state-of-the-art security. Otherwise, we don't have a business. Separation of the customer data. Host Analytics customers share the network security infrastructure, web servers, application servers, and database instance. However, each customer has its own set of database tables and its own partition in the database containing its own unique database schema with no logical communication allowed between customer database instances. And then availability. We offer an uptime service level agreement of 99.5%. Our actual uptime is almost 100%. It's 99.99. Data is backed up hourly, and the host analytics applications architected based on the .NET framework with redundancy in all critical components to provide high levels of uptime. Business continuity and disaster recovery plans ensure continued operations in the face of natural disasters or any other major instance. Host analytics typically undergoes an SSAE 16 SOC1 Type 2 and SOC2 audits. Other security audits and internal compliance self-assessments provide the foundation for customers to maintain compliance with critical regulatory requirements. We passed audits based on the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants standards for availability, confidentiality, and security controls. And then the third major benefit of cloud computing is lower overall costs. On-premises software has many costs. There's large upfront software costs, which many companies have a tough time swallowing. Then, of course, there's the cost to implement. Usually, implementation costs as much as the software. What's often hidden is your internal cost to set up the infrastructure to support the software. There's capital costs to buy the equipment like servers, backup servers, network equipment, firewalls, and security systems. Then there's the internal labor costs, which can actually be more than the initial capital costs. It's the cost of your IT and finance team, whose time will be consumed throughout a lengthy implementation. There are also ongoing costs that are like maintenance fees, and there are also hidden ongoing costs for internal resources to maintain and update the infrastructure to keep the application running. The cost to train IT professionals, finance professionals, and high-end users is high because of complex customization and proprietary software syntax. Then, of course, you may need to retain a consultant versed in the software in order to make changes to reports or budgeting, planning, input templates. Finally, because of all the customization, you can't call the vendor for business help. They really only offer break and fix-it IT help. So that means you'll have to staff up an internal help desk to handle problems that your users may have. So I thank you for all attending.
Thank you, Rick. We will now move into our first polling question. In just moments, you will be seeing this on your screen. We do ask everyone to answer the polling question as they are statistical in nature. And if you're looking for CPE credit, this is the first of 3. And remember, you need to answer all 3 polling questions. If you do have a question, please use the question box in the GoToWebinar panel, and we will get to your questions in the Q&A session. I'll leave this open just for a few more seconds here so everyone can get their answers in. I'll be closing this down and just shortly here. Thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce our second speaker, Michelle He. She's Manager of Financial Planning and Analysis with Axion Service. Prior to Axion Services, she worked for HP Finance for over 15 years. Michelle has been responsible for developing the planning and reporting process at HP, all of which involves system implementations. She has extensive experience in both on-premise and cloud-based SaaS applications. She's been using her strong financial systems and tools background to implement host analytics at Axion Services. So with that, I will turn it over to her and let her share her experiences. It's all yours, Michelle.
Hi, thank you, David, and thank you everyone for attending. Here's my agenda. First of all, I'm going to introduce you to my company, Axion Services, and then I'll go over the motivation for change and the solutions we looked at and why we chose host analytics, and also share with you our accomplishments and value, and end up with our evolution plan for the future. Hey, David, can we add a polling question? How many of you have heard of Axiom services? Okay, no need for that. I figure the answer might be close to 0. My company is actually pretty new and small, but we are actually the leading supplier of precision parts for oil field services. We basically manufacture those special parts that they use for drilling and when they complete drilling. So our major customers include Baker Hughes, Weatherford, Schlumberger, and Halliburton. I'm sure you've heard some of these names. And our headquarters is in Houston, Texas. We have operations in Texas and Maine right now. And just to give you some background about our history, we basically acquired 3 companies in the past 2 years. We started with Magnum Precision Instruments, which is located here in Houston, Texas. We acquired them back in January of 2011, so 2 years ago. And this company specializes in large and medium parts. So they do precision milling and turning. And then in February of 2012, we acquired Shamrock Precision Operations. So this company specializes in small and medium parts. And they also use EDM for that, and they're also located in Houston, Texas. And then the third company we acquired is called Grover Gun Drilling, and they do gun hole drilling and some deep hole boring, and they are based in Maine. So we are a $100 million company and growing fast. And we are funded with private equity. So sorry, no stocks for you right now. And just keep in mind, that's our history, since we basically put 3 companies together, and here comes our challenge. We really don't have a single general ledger. You know, there's no common chart of accounts. Pretty much everybody does things a little bit differently. I remember when I first started, I asked my corporate controller, hey, where can I run a report for last month's results? And he told me, nowhere. We didn't have a corporate system. We didn't do any consolidations. So he actually had to manually key in the reports in Excel to produce some reports. So we relied heavily on Excel, and it was very manual, very tedious. And also, each company classified things a little bit differently. For instance, one company might call something material, while the company might consider that tooling costs. So it was difficult for us to even validate data, let alone producing business review packages and some banking reports. So it was a huge challenge. And just to give you an example, when we went to our business reviews, we feel like a deer in headlights. After we showed them our reports, and they would ask us, hey, why was our tooling cost so much higher this month than last month? And we were like, oh, yeah, really? We're not sure. Can we get back to you on that? And then, they'll ask, hey, what made up the other cogs? No idea. We have to look into that. And finally, our CEO said, hey, can you just make sure your numbers are correct when you come to the meeting next time? Again, right, we rushed. We tried to get the numbers ready, and then we were not prepared. So it got really frustrating. So we just feel like change was much needed. We feel humiliated and embarrassed and frustrated. It was time for change. So we started looking into a solution, and we talked to different vendors, and our selection team included our CFO, the FP&A team, and our IT team. We actually invited some vendors to our site to do demos, and we also asked for some customer references. So the whole process took about 2 months. And in the end, we picked host analytics. So why did we choose host? So many reasons. And number one, they are a true cloud solution. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been in the cloud since I was born, or at least according to my parents. So I loved the cloud aspect of it. And also, it is finance-owned, so we didn't really need to rely that much on IT. You know how it is, right? When you implement a new tool, you're really at the mercy of your IT department, and they normally have other priorities, so it will get delayed. So this, with host, we feel like we had more control. And also, as Rick already mentioned earlier, they give us the security we require. And also, they have the comprehensive solution. So we are going to use that for reporting, budget, consolidations, and even scorecard. So very comprehensive. And also, it has very good integration with Excel. Hey, let's be realistic. We can't really get away from Excel. But, you know, it's nice to be able to upload Excel templates into a host and then export host reports into Excel. So we really like that feature. And also, host provided better implementation support. I worked with my solutions architect. She really held my hand, and we had daily meetings. We had to set up our company master data and design how we are going to forecast things and design the templates, and they even helped us write reports. So it was very helpful. So it's been a journey, and we have accomplished quite a bit with host. So let me just share with you. So last month, for the first time, we were able to do a bottoms-up forecast in host analytics for P&L. And then we were able to load our actuals into the tool in time for our business review. So our corporate controller was able to just run the report, and we showed the reports to our executive team. And our CFO loved it. He was so excited. He showed the trend reports, the percentages, you know, and we showed the P&L analysis, comparing our actuals to forecast and our budget. And he got so carried away. He told me to just do our June forecast in there. And so I just stayed late one night just to get it ready. But it worked very well. It saved us a lot of time, and also it ensured data quality. So we went live in April. It really just took us 2 months, but the overall time was longer only because we had some personnel turnover, so it was delayed. And looking forward, certainly there's so much potential with host. So we still need to create our balance sheet and cash flow forecasting there. And we also want to learn more about the advanced features such as what-if scenarios and the Excel add-in. And we also want to populate the scorecard reporting. Like Rick was mentioning earlier, all those metrics. My company has a set of metrics, which means I'll have to load our KPIs in the tool. And we would like to migrate our executive reporting package to host. That will automate a lot of things. And we are also looking to automating the interfaces from host to our ERP system. Right now, we've been manually loading the actual results from our general ledger, and that's very tedious and time-consuming. So we are looking to an automatic feed there. And also, we want to look at the consolidations functionality. We've actually purchased that module, but we haven't used that yet. So that's the next one on our list. A lot to do, but great potential. So if you are looking at a host or just any other cloud solutions, my advice to you is to first of all think through your company process, and then do it by piecemeal. I feel like we took on too much. We wanted to do everything at once, and it's impossible. So you really need to have a phased approach, maybe work with one module and make sure it gets where you want to go, and then expand to the next areas. And that's pretty much what I have. Hold on. How do I? Oh, yeah, there we go. Just want to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'll stay on to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for those insights and your experience there. We will now be moving and bringing up the second of 3 polling questions. You should see it in just moments here. I will leave this open for, here it goes. Please, we ask everyone if you can answer this polling question. It helps us as they are statistical in nature. If you do have a question for Michelle or Rick, please utilize the question box in your GoToWebinar panel. I will leave this open for a little bit longer so everyone can get their answers in. Again, at the end of the webinar, we'll also be asking you to complete a short survey to help us get better and provide you the best possible content. I'll be closing this down in just a couple seconds, so if you haven't got your answer in, please bring your answer on through. We will now share the first polling result. Should be coming up here in just a second. And Rick, any insights on, is this pretty much what you expect to see and what you see from your clients?
Yeah, it really is what we would expect to see, and we see a lot of people that come to us looking for a solution because they do want to get off of Excel for both planning and reporting.
Great. We will now pull up the results so everyone can see the second polling results. Should be, there we go. And any quick comments on this, Rick?
No, I'm surprised the sales and marketing one isn't higher because, like, I believe Salesforce.com has about 40% of the market now.
Okay.
Yep.
We will transition now into the Q&A session. If you do have a question, please utilize the GoToWebinar panel in the question area. So for our first question, comes to Michelle, and the question is, what ERP and accounting general ledger system are you using?
Good question. So right now, 2 of our companies use Info. I don't know if you've heard of them. And the GL side of it is called Visual. So the ERP is Info, and we have the manufacturing module in there, and the financial side is called Visual.
Okay. And the next question comes from Michelle as well. As do you have any regrets or potentially areas of implementation which you would do differently with hindsight?
Good question. As I said earlier, I wish we did not purchase all those modules all at once. I wish we did them one by one, because at the beginning it was just so overwhelming. I didn't even know where to begin. It's like, oh my gosh, I got 10 things to do simultaneously. So I wish we could have planned it out a little bit better. So we'll say, hey, let's just focus on budget right now, right? Let's not even waste our time on consolidations and on something else. So that's something I wish I could have done differently.
And if I might jump in here, David, that really is a recommended best practice. So we'll see a lot of potential customers that we start talking to, and they start to see the functionality and the tool that's available. And they want to jump and leap and run before they're actually walking. And some of them do try to bite off too much at one time. And it's nice to do it in smaller chunks. It helps drive user adoption. It helps get you familiar with the application and understand its use and understand how data flows through the application. And the example I used earlier about Jazz Consolidation, they're a really good example for that, where when they first purchased this, they just purchased the planning cloud and reporting. So we got that up, and they were running on that. They'd gone through a number of different forecast cycles, and then when they went to acquire the first European business that they bought, that's when they decided, well, now we need a better way to close the books, because they were on a different ERP system than the legacy companies, and they had no immediate plans to integrate to one ERP. So they need to be able to bring all the data into and have a closed management tool. So that's why they came to us at that time, and then got the consolidation process, and we got that up and running for them. And then they decided now we need to want to do some more advanced revenue planning, and then they purchased our advanced revenue planning module and then added that in at a later date.
Great. Another question is on the ERP that you're using. Is that on the cloud?
Oh, that for me? No, that ERP is not on the cloud, which is actually a good point. We are seriously considering moving away from that, and that's why we purchased the consolidations module from host. So maybe we can even replace our ERP or part of it with host.
Great. We have time for about one more question, and this is for Rick. Are you seeing finance organizations adopting cloud applications pretty rapidly?
Yes, we are, and I think we're starting to get in the life cycle of EPM, where it's starting to kind of groundswell. We're seeing more and more companies coming to us investigating using host analytics for their EPM solution, and we're getting more and more customers every day. And my implementation team is swamped right now with current implementations that we have underway.
Great.
And we're also seeing larger and larger customers adopting the cloud also.
I think we have time for one last quick question there, and the question is, what do you see driving finance organizations to adapting the cloud?
I think a lot of it has to do with, when I was talking about the three benefits of the cloud, is that the agility, the ease of making changes, the ease of finance administering the system and not having to rely on IT personnel. And also the ease, we do quarterly product updates where we introduce new product enhancements each quarter. Those typically go into place in the middle of the night on a Friday when the application's not in much use there, and then everybody has a warning that they're going in at that time. And then when you log in the next time, all of that new functionality is now delivered in the application and available for you to use, and there's no new software purchase, there's no new implementation to go to the newer version. It just literally happens overnight when we do the update.
Thank you for that, Rick and Michelle. We really appreciate those insights, and your real-world experience really helps us, Michelle. Sorry if we didn't get to all your questions, but we will work with today's speakers to get them answered for you directly after today's webinar. Now for just a few housekeeping items before we end the webinar, at which time you will be prompted to participate in a short survey. We truly value your feedback and appreciate your time to help us continue to deliver great content. At this time, you can easily request to connect with our speakers and our sponsor with a click of your mouse. Please join us on Proformative.com to continue this discussion. Just a quick reminder that we will be holding our CFO Dimension Conference on August 21st and 22nd in New York. I'd like to personally invite you to this premier conference on strategic leadership in finance. And as a special thank you for attending today's webinar, we'll be sending you out a discount off our early bird pricing for those who register by June 28th. I want to thank Host Analytics for sponsoring this webinar today, and also thank Rick and Michelle for all their experiences and background in giving us this great content. Great job, guys and gals. I will now bring up our polling question. This is the third and last polling question. It should be showing up on your screen here just shortly. And I'd like to take this time to thank you, the audience, for your time. Again, after we close down the webinar, you'll be prompted to take a short survey. If we can ask you to participate so we may get better, deliver you the right type of content and webinar to you, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, there you'll have the opportunity to request a connection with our speakers, an introduction to Host Analytics, or request for more information on CFOD with a click of your mouse. I want to thank you again. We hope to see you on another Proformative event or online at proformative.com. This concludes our presentation. Have a great rest of your day.